Dugan again with we named it if it helps just one. So originally, Mayor, when we started, it was anything but sports. Like I was like, I want to talk about anything but sports because it was again while we talked about how the ideas start getting kicked around. It was like all these celebrities, athletes, musicians that kids want to look up to and impersonate and emulate. I'm a big believer that these role models live around the corner from your house. They're down the street, and the idea just took out from there. This is again maybe our fourth episode. I appreciate you guys sitting down with us today. Today is Mary and Chalie Strange, and again I know you can get into whatever you guys want to get into. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. I guess our main topic is going to be my boy Chalie today, right? And that's what I told him is like I want to let whoever listens to get to know who you are, right? And also joining us because of military background is my boy Stevie Purcell. If you want to say what's up.
Thank you for having me over at your house, your beautiful home. I've known Michael's story since it happened, and it's just an honor to be here.
Great. So with that, child, it's almost like, all right, balls in your court, dude. I want to hear from you. And I was just telling I just got my hair cut down two houses down the street from our boy Timmy.
Yeah.
If you're ever looking for a fresh cut, hit us up. Me and Chalie got a guy. And I said it's funny when every time I'm at a meeting with Chalie, he feels like he has to tell people he's from Philly. I'm like, all he has to do is open his mouth, and we're like, yeah, we're good, dude. Like, we didn't have you pegged for the suburbs. And I don't know if you know this, child, but do you remember when me and you met?
Remind me.
August 2012, down the shore.
Oh yeah.
Down the shore, that you were having a tough time that day, and I just remember just hugging you, and the reason I said what's up to you is because I knew your niece and nephew. I grew up with them,
Right.
and then we sparked the conversation from there, and obviously having a tough day during that period of time. It was around the 1 year anniversary of Michael and Extortion 17. And since that day, dude, you're somebody that I've always appreciated, always loved seeing you when you're at meetings, and man, I just enjoyed the conversations that we have. So again, I think to give somebody like you any kind of a platform just to say what's up and speak, again, I say it all the time, the meetings we go to, it ruins the conversations about the Phillies and the weather. Right? It's just there's a lot of context to the conversation, and it's really deep and meaningful. I always tell people when there's an anniversary meeting, my family would attend, and they would leave there I loved it. It was so good, and I'm like, hey, it's just human beings relating to human beings on a totally different level,
Right.
and being very vulnerable. So with that. Today, you be as vulnerable as you want to be with whatever you want to talk about, and start how you tell your story in the rooms.
Sure. My name's Charles Strange. I'm from Philly, Feltonville, St. Boulevard, St. Ambrose, Cardinal Doherty High School. I'll just tell you, growing up in the neighborhood there by Juniata, Frankfurt, it was great. Tons of kids, street hockey, football, basketball, half-ball. Father was a police officer. Mom worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer. One sister, my sister Maggie, who's Sister Teresa. You know what I mean? The mayor of Fishtown, I call her. We just got to switch her over a little bit, but you got to learn to laugh, with everything going on today. I grew up, with high school and sports and the drinking, and drinking took me to other avenues. Had plenty of opportunity in life, but for schooling, I don't know, a lot of probably 30, 40 different colleges for football and basketball, and alcoholism was taking over, and the addictions, and I only lasted maybe 3 months at Westchester. I call it Wastechester. It was a waste of time up there. I found out about Alcoholics Anonymous. My poor parents, you know, they sent me to the bridge when I was 16, 17. I was in a detox. I remember being in a detox. I was in 11th grade, and the football coach came. Father Donnelly from Cardinal Doherty came over, and I remembered him. You know, why do you drink like this? Why do you get in trouble like this? And you know, I remember the doctor coming in and telling me, like, you keep drinking like that, you know, it's the worst way in the world to die. You know, your liver goes and you bleed out of every orifice. And now, if that doctor would have told me from eating Reese's cups, I would have died. I would have never had another Reese cup. But, you know, not having a Budweiser, you know, we got to be crazy. And I tried everything else. I ended up, you know, the neighborhood was changing, getting in a lot of fights, a lot of trouble, you know, with the drinking. June 22nd, 1988, I was at B in Wyoming, the rec center there, drinking in the morning with a couple other guys. We were drinking grain alcohol, I remember that. And at A in Wyoming, there was a deli, got a couple quarts of beer. As we're walking across the street, I almost got hit by a car. The Spanish dude said something and got in a fight. And they came back. They were pretty big, 4 cars. And about 30 guys got out of the 4 cars. And they all had baseball bats. I'm like, yo, where's the game? You know what I mean? And I was the game. They busted my legs, my arms, busted my head up. I remember at Parkview Hospital, I had a neck brace, 2 intravenous's, priest there for last rites. From there, I went to University of Penn Trauma Center. And from there, I went to Chit Chat Farms. I said, oh man, I did it now. I'm going to the funny farm. Where are you sending me? You know what I mean? And it was the Karen Foundation up in Reading. And it was definitely where the seed of Alcoholics Anonymous was planted. The group Aerosmith was there. Steven Tyler brought the whole band, you know what I mean? You know, and I went to AA for a little bit, and I was going to try some controlled drinking, and I found out normal people don't try to control their drinking, and my last drink or drug was October 15th, 1989.
So, Stevie, did you know that? So Karen, right, in our job, when people go away, job,
Right.
Mary, they go, oh, he's at the farm.
Yeah.
Well, that's originated from that place. It actually is called the farm up there, and that's how that nickname became, you know, indoctrinated into what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely planted the seed up there. You know, I went to A in Wyoming. There was an AA meeting there. I hung at B in Wyoming. I used to see them people out there with the coffee because I just thought they were, you know, church people. And I remember walking in there. I was throwing up that yellow shit, like, puking. I was sitting at the table like this. Old guy named Harry Cunningham from 3rd Street. He said, everything's going to be all right. I said, F you, everything's going to be all right. I was having my 2nd kid at the time. And just kept making meetings. And you know, God and AA do for me what I can't do for myself. And it's been a journey. I got a job. Then I got an engineer's license to run boilers, ammonia systems, a Class A engineer's license. Got a job at Tasty Cake in the boiler room. Did 12 years there. I opened up a halfway house, Kensington, Ontario, right across from Diamond Furniture. Time program, things I must earn. And I tell you what, I met a lot of people from all walks of life there. We had, you know, men coming from prisons with the handcuffs and the shackles, and had lawyers, had movie stars. Guy was in Spencer for Hire, Equalizer, you know, Ivy League guy. Alcohol don't discriminate where you come from. But, you know, for me, the halfway house, you know, bringing my children down there, my 2 sons, Michael and Chaz, you know, and him looking, you know, he looking at them guys, you know what I mean? And incorporating AA into my life with my children and my family, really, you know, I think had such a profound, on how they grew up. I mean, them 12 steps we have is, to find that higher power as they talk about. I remember tucking my children in at night and praying with them and talking to them about drinking and drugging and everything else. And I would have a lot of people from AA over my house, Sean. We had card games on Friday night. There'd be people on my sofa. I had a big pot of roast beef, coffee, quarter 50 cents, and hanging out. And my kids would come down to get the coffee. They made more money than everybody else, and they would throw money under the table for in the morning when they would clean up. And I remember my oldest son, Michael, he was at North Catholic. He was in 11th grade, and he was starting to test the waters with drinking. And I took a walk with him, we took a little run through the park, Wissinoming Park. And I started talking about drinking and drugs. And he said, Dad, I seen what drugs did to your friends. Don't worry about that part, Dad. I had dudes there that did 20 years in prison, 10 years in prison, sober a long time, too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but they were like walking deterrents for like a young kid.
Right.
I'm good.
Yeah, it definitely opened all my children, seeing what alcohol did to these men and women that would come through. Went through a divorce, 9 years without a drink. Had another child, a Carly. Got a 21-year-old. Bought a home in Port Richmond, Belgrade, and Clearfield. And I remember my oldest son, Michael, talking about joining the military. And I remember telling him, you're not joining the military, there's a war going on, you know what I mean? And he turned 18, said, I joined the Navy. I said, all right, do the 4 years, get out. He's like, all right. I remember flying up to Chicago, watching graduate boot camp and all that. And
what year was that you went in, Jack?
2004. Yeah. And from boot camp, he goes to Pensacola, Florida. And he had this knack for cryptology, code breaking. I called him my 007 guy, right? My James Bond guy. Excuse me. So he calls me up from Pensacola, Florida. He says, Dad, they lied to me. And in my head, I'm like, I told you not to join the military. You know what I mean? I said, what happened? He said, well, whoever came in first in this class, you get to choose to go wherever you want to go. And in the classroom, there was no chalkboard, no notes or nothing. It was everything by memory over a 3-week span. And he finished first. I said, well, what happened? He goes, they're sending me to Hawaii. I said, you're going to Hawaii, Mike? You know what I mean? But he wanted to come to Virginia. And you talk about family, you know what I mean? Check on his dad, his brothers, sisters, his good friends who are still, mourning. And we spent, 16 days in Hawaii with him. It was pretty cool, you know what I mean? He was really taking off. He became an E6 in less than 4 years. He was running, working out. He took us in Hawaii in his Jeep. He had a Jeep, and only certain people could get there. And you see this big mountain, right? And he's like, don't get out of the car, Dad. I'm like, what? He's like, don't get out of the car, just look. And I'm looking at the mountain. There's a big vault, and you could drive a tank through it. And underneath there, and underneath all the pineapple fields in Hawaii, is computers and NSA. I can say that now. It's up on Google, but that was the secret thing. And I knew that, and I was like, Mike, what are you doing here? You're getting in deep, son, you know what I mean? And we talked, and then he talked about, he called me, I'm home, and he talked about the Navy SEALs picking him up at his house. And I said, Mike, you said you were going to do 4 and get out. He goes, I know. I talked to the SEALs, and they said I could do 12. I could do 16 years. And he was 21 years old. And they would run up 3 stories, down 3 stories, up 3 stories, down, then run over to the beach, swim out to the buoy, back on out. He said, Dad, they were killing me. Thank God the guy's phone rang or beeper, and he said, all right, go to the gym. You know, he was dying out, and he goes into the gym. Everybody wearing black. They're listening to the headbanging music, doing the karate stuff, lifting weights, all that good stuff. And they circled around him, and that's when they put him on Dev Group, Navy Special Warfare SEAL Team 6. He bought a house at 21. He was happy. You know what I mean? He said, "Dad, you bought a house at 22. I bought one at 21." You know what I mean? And I bought a nice home down there. He bought like a $300,000 house, Sean. I thought he was stealing money from over there in the Middle East. I'm like, oh, don't forget that. You know what I mean? Because he was getting their dollar and everything.
Absolutely, it's funny, right? Like a kid like that, and like I'm thinking, like I didn't get my license till I was 24. The lifestyle we live, and it's like God bless him.
Yeah. He took off. You know, I could see the change in him. You know, it's a brotherhood whether you're in the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. You know, it's that camaraderie, and you know. His brother and sisters, you know, like would go visit him, and he would fly them. You know, he'd be like climbing mountains in Denver or some other places. I'll tell you something, Sean. You know, during the middle of America, in the woods, the middle of America, and he calls me up. He said, "Yo, Dad, you ain't gonna believe this." He said, "We're in the middle of America. I can't tell you where at. But we're learning how to shoot every gun that was ever made and put them back together." I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Guess who's shooting us? Teaching us how to shoot." I said, "Oh, the people that won the gold medal in the Olympics from wherever, from Norway, from Africa, and they were the guys that were training them." And then he had to let me know, "We're staying in a 5-star hotel too." You know what I mean? But, you know, that's the training, and that's the difference with the elite, you know, with Dev Group, Navy Special Warfare, the tip of the spear. He was doing some amazing things for America, you know. I knew, like, he grew a beard, and if you could tell, Michael didn't have, you know, his mother was Italian, you know what I mean? He had that thin, you know. I thought the beard was fake. I was ready to grab it, Steve. I was like, "Man, how'd you grow a beard?" You know what I mean? And he would get dark, and you know what that was for. You know what I mean? You know, I guess like he called me in April 2011, and he said, "Dad, you're not going to hear from me for a while." And I'm like, "What? What's the matter? What's going on?" And prior to that, Michael's favorite place to eat was P.F. Chang's. And we were at P.F. Chang's down in Virginia, and when I was staying at his home, he says he would go out like with a shirt with a collar, come home with a gym suit on. I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "I stopped at the gym." I said, "Why didn't you get me?" And the next morning he'd go out with a gym uniform, come home with a suit and tie. I'm like, "What's going on?" And we go out and eat. And I was asking him questions at P.F. Chang's. And he said, "Dad, you know who's sitting next to us?" I said, "Looks like a husband and wife." He goes, "That's what you think." I said, "What?" And that's where we came up with, he told me, you know, they give him a lie detector test every three months. And the first question they asked was, "When was the last time you lied?" Which is a loaded question, right? And so we came up with a code. And he said, "Dad, whenever I say, and I'm talking on the phone to you, I say, 'Did the Phillies win?' That means stop asking me questions, Dad." You know what I mean? And
no matter what season it was,
right.
Spring, fall, or summer, yeah.
And so anyway, to get back to April 2011, he calls me. He said, "Dad, you're not going to hear from me for a while. I'm asking him questions." He says, "Dad, did the Phillies win? Stop asking." I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" And he goes, "Well, Dad, if something happens, you're going to hear about it." And then, of course, May 2nd, 2011, the killing of Osama bin Laden. Michael comes home in June 2011, and he grabs him by the bicep. And he says, "Dad, you won't believe what the F is going on in this country." And he starts pacing. I'm like, yo, what's up? And Mayor was there, you know, and he said, I got a will. I said, what do you mean you got a will? You know, why are you talking about a will? You're 25 years old, you know? So we had a big party at Kevin and Danny's house. I was telling you about Danny earlier, and there was, you know, they had like 5 kegs of beer and 100 and some kids up there at Welsh Road at Kev's house, and he was telling his friends about a will too, you know. And people were like, "What's up, Michael?" Da 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 da. And
I remember, real quick, I remember like how weird that was to do a will at I did it 26 or whatever, 27 before it went over. And I had nothing anyway, but like they want you to do that. I remember like what a weird feeling that was. You're doing this at 27 years old, and it was one of those things that you're like, when you told someone, like, oh, I just thought I had a will. Like it puts a lot of things in perspective for you at that moment. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and just by you saying about that, I get that feeling about it again. You know, and it was one of those first moments where you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm getting into, but it might. There's a possibility, and it becomes a little bit more real to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
especially as a dad.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm like, what do you? Why would you? You know? And every deployment he would sign one for years, but he never talked about it. You know, they all sign them, and you know, he was different. And his last message, he called, and then he called back again. He got deployed in July, and going back over to Afghanistan, he called and said, "Yo, Dad, I love you. I see you at Aunt Maggie's, and we always meet at Aunt Maggie's in Fishtown for Thanksgiving." And that, like, you know, that was the last time I heard from my son. Next thing was the knock on the door, and about Michael dying with the 30 guys, 38 men, 30 Americans, and part of the Warrior Dog. And that day I lost a piece of my heart, you know, and you're never the same, you know, these freaking wars, you know, 20 years in Afghanistan, and I know, and then hearing about the will, him grabbing me when he came home with Sean, you know what I mean, and then the next thing you know, they all get killed, you know, a lot of, you just out of your mind. Still today, you know, I was sharing at the meeting, you know, like the families are shattered. You know, anybody that buried a child, the families are shattered. And, the cost of war ain't measured, and you know,
Emotional pain.
yeah.
I mean, because I remember even calling you up after Christmas and just talking to you, and I said, you know, you asked me how was my Christmas, and it's great, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then you said, I said, how was yours? You said, well, you know. And I said, no, I don't know. But I knew what you were talking about.
I remember the first time I got to meet you, Child. Sean called me up. He set us up together, and I get to help out Child. Runs a group with the Gold Star families. I'm sure you'll get into. And I remember coming up and picking one guy up and dropping him off, and being welcomed into the group, and everybody's hugging. And but I remember it was the first time I saw what war does to other people. Right, it's like the secondary effects of it, right? It starts to be the ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen that before because I only had seen what had happened, what I could relate to for myself or my friends, and you know my family. Like I came back, right? So they didn't have that side, you know what I mean? And even the like I just never got to see that side, and to see it, and it was years later at this point, and to see the pain still on the faces of these families, and now they're getting around each other, and that's like just therapy in itself to be surround yourself with people like that, and what an important thing that it is that you're doing for them and yourself. But it was the first time I got to see the secondary effects of war, and I left out of there like really thinking about it. And I think I remember calling Sean and talking about it. Like it was humbling because I'm so used to just seeing it on my side, and then you see the families, and you're like, man, that's real pain left in the wake. You know what I mean? And it really like opened my eyes to that and how important it is you doing what you do. You know?
Yeah, we, you know, through all that, that was the only kind of therapy. You know, we're lucky ones. You know, we got the program, we got the 12 steps. You know. And I went to a couple of therapists, and they were good people. They were great people, you know what I mean? They were caring people. The one therapist started crying with me, and we were sharing the tissues, you know. And Judge Pat Dugan put me in touch with Gold Star Father Grant Smith over here in Bryn Athyn. His son Tristan Smith killed IED, and I called him up, which I learned, you know, reach out. And went and met him for a cup of coffee. And he was just like me. He was crying. He was angry. We were laughing. And I was like, man, this is, you know. And I came home to my wife and I said, I feel better talking to, you know, this Gold Star. I said, we should start bringing more Gold Star families in. And that's how we started the Michael Strange Foundation. Michael Strange Foundation. New website, Michael Strange Foundation. And, you know, we did a little thing at St. Dominic's in Northeast Philly. Joey Conklin came, Luke Jardell and the Hooligans, Nicky Luke donated roast beef. And that's how we started the first fundraiser. And we did Malvern Prep. Malvern Retreat House is where we went for our first one. And then the word spread, and the parents were calling up, yo, I'm a Gold Star, and you're doing another one. And then we went to Wildwood to the Bolero. 3 nights, 4 days. Some of the parents never seen the ocean. And it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. They said, well, did you ever ride a horse? I said, yeah, I rode a horse, but I didn't ride it to the grocery store. You know, they're from the Midwest, you know what I'm saying? But being through the 12 steps, that's what me and my wife came up with. You know, we're powerless over the death, and our life is still unmanageable. You know what I mean? And because in the beginning, when, you know, you don't pray to God when they tell you your son was murdered. You know, it says homicide on the death certificate, you know. And so I remember cursing God out, man, like for months, you know. And a gentleman by the name of Michael Quinn, a veteran, one of us, who I met down the shore. He lives in Tucson, Arizona. And, you know, getting back to believing in my higher power, who I call Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. You know, the praying came, probably took like 18 months to ask God for help again. You know what I mean?
I prayed every day with you.
Yeah, we pray every
When
day.
You wouldn't pray, I said, well, I'll pray with you.
And at that same time, when this Gold Star, you know, idea kicks off, it's what I'm a big believer in is God working through his people. And that's why AA works so well. It's because we speak the same language.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, that's what I always tell people when it comes to drugs, when it comes to alcohol, the one thing you don't get to say to us is like, oh, you don't understand. It's like, well, when it comes to this, I do. Right? And it's just like, you know, why don't you try me?
Right.
So when you link up with these other people who've lost sons, you know, tragically, you know, war, it's like, it's the phenomenon of identification. Like, because when you said to me, oh, you know, like, I don't know, Chuck, I don't know, you know, but I know that I could, you know, be there and walk with you and hold hand and do all that kind of stuff like we're taught to do and show up. But these other people have a special gift to, you know, actually speak the language. You know, that's what's so powerful about your get-togethers. And it's not all, you know, from what I understand, it's not all, you know, pain and sorrow, which is the natural process of it all, but it's a lot of laughing and singing and dancing and, right, hanging out.
Yeah. The process we take them through is the first step, you know, powerless, life unmanageable. We bring a preacher in from Lindenfield Projects. Our boy Jimmy Kim and Nash breaks down how beautiful heaven is, John 15:13, and he's, you know, He's great. We bring in this therapist to speak about the 5 stages of grief for a little bit. We, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And then my wife hands him a folder, and Friday night, some poems in there and some loose leaf paper, and asks them to write a letter about their sons and daughters. And when my wife calls them up and we invite them, plane tickets are paid for, the hotel's paid for. Just bring a bag and bring a picture of your son and daughter. And so we have an honor remember table, whatever hotel we're in. We have the conference room for the weekend or for a few days. And I'll tell you what, it's just like us. I'm not writing nothing down. Them parents are there like this, right, Mary?
Oh yeah, they come in and their arms are folded because they don't know what to expect. Like, this is my space, don't step in it. And by the end of the weekend, they're laughing and joking. And, our big saying is, you don't have to explain yourself here.
Right.
Everybody knows exactly how you feel. And I think that's a big part of it. A lot of these families have lost their family members because, coming to a Christmas dinner, oh, come on, don't talk about Stephen, we don't want to hear about it anymore. This is the mothers, the fathers, the aunts, the uncles that are saying this to them. How could you say that? Get over it. Get over it. So they just, remove themselves from the family members.
Something Sean's said to me since day one in sobriety is talk about it till it don't hurt anymore.
That's right.
And I mean, what could hurt more than that? You know what I mean? And that's what you got to be for family and everything, and show up for them. That's the way you handle it.
We have parents that lost 2 kids to this war. Christine Koch from New Jersey. Her son Stephen was killed. She has a daughter and a son. And Lenny, she's a Rutgers grad, Dean's List, really good girl. And she kept saying, Mom, what are you going to these memorials for? Stephen's coming home. She was in complete denial. And 16 months later, they found her with a bottle of pills and a note she left behind saying, I realize my brother's not coming home, so I'm going to be with him. And that's not just one story like that. There's multiple stories like this, so it's, it's that snowball effect to the family, a lot of them wind up going into, like Chalie likes to say, the hat factory. They need professional help. A lot of them, some of them that you called the one time, it was like 4 people in a row. The dad had cancer and was fighting it, and he just gave up and he's gone. I remember he got off the phone and he was like crying. I'm like, what's the matter? He said, the last 4 people I called, they're all gone. All the parents.
All the parents died.
Yeah, and they just give up, or they weren't alcoholics or addicts before this, and then the doctor's feeding them, oh, here, take this anxiety medicine, sleep medicine, this medicine, and they wind up becoming addicts, going to rehab, or alcohol. They're taking half gallons of vodka or whiskey every day and drinking it and drinking themselves to death. So it's
trying to fill that hole in the soul.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard, but to be around other gold stars that completely understand what they're going through, I think is one of our biggest assets for our foundation.
Right. Meeting each other, sharing our experience. Experience our strength and hope.
Yeah.
There was a few people that were in the program because they picked up on the AA lingo one day at a time. He doesn't but do it, but for the grace of God, there go. I think, you know what I mean? Because when I'm talking to these gold stars, we've had up to 42 in Ocean City, Maryland, 34, 30. We've done 15 workshops, over 400 gold star moms and dads. We also bring in the parents that lost their kids to suicide the last 6 years. If you figure, 8 years and 8 months in Iraq, and then bam, 20 years in Afghanistan, you're talking a war, 30 years of war. So they say the suicide rate's 22 a day. Say the suicide rate's 10 a day for 30 years. And the men and women killed in action. You're talking about over 150,000 men and women have died in the effing Middle East war. You know, and it all comes down to what? For what? You know what I mean? These senseless wars. Me and Steve were talking before, you know what I mean, about, you know, the corruption and you know, a lot of the things we got into, showing, you know, with trying to get answers and going to the government and then, you know, the NSA spying on us, winning the first case, 2013, Judge Leon in Washington, D.C., the third highest court in the country. They tapped our phone, went in our computers, took my wife's picture off that computer right there, which don't have a camera. All of a sudden she started yelling, "Yo, they took my picture, they took my picture." I come out, it says, it's a lifetime, whatever she was wearing right there. 10 to 12 years in prison, FBI.
Yeah.
I said, "How'd you get that up there?" She said, "They just took my picture." I look at it, she's wearing what she's wearing. It was on Channel 3, 6, and 10 here in Philadelphia. And, you know, Judge Leon called it. You might remember it went pretty viral. Orwellian. Edward Snowden's lawyer was there. That guy, you know what I mean? Call him what you want to call him, you know what I mean? But I think that's the only way that kid would have lived, you know, with whatever he got. You know, spying on I'm a construction worker. I was also in the laborers union at Broad and Miles for 15 years. You know, asking questions, you're going to spy on me, you know what I mean? Them 1,300 pages my wife downloaded from a disc that nobody else could do, you know, giving us information about the Taliban and everything that went on that day. You know, hearing about the contractors that were in Afghanistan for 20 years. The one contractor, we're in a case with that, it says we have $300 million cash. Make sure the payments are the same every month to the Taliban. And if they need more guns and ammunition, give it to them. American contractors who are making billions of dollars already. I mean, the guy that supplies the water, the toilet paper, the food, the tires, the bullets. 30 years. And who is it? The people in Washington, D.C. These senators, these congressmen, these big companies, you know what I mean? It's sickening, you know what I mean? I get so fucking angry, you know.
American contractors killing American citizens.
You know, so that case starts in March. Been involved in a few other things. And then it circles back. I talk to probably a Gold Star dad 5 times a week. From meeting them through the foundation. And then to hear God working through us, how they reach out to the other Gold Stars they met on that weekend, that workshop with the Michael Strange Foundation.
The ripple effect of goodness.
Yes. Yeah. And it's all God working through us, and I believe our sons and daughters. You know, we had Bob Huff and his wife Pam. Bob's daughter was the first girl killed in Iraq, Samantha Huff, 18 years old, Sean.
Beautiful girl.
Beautiful girl. They rode over an IED. They blew off both her legs. They come out and get her. And then they said they couldn't get back. I said, "Why couldn't they get back?" He said, "Because they're following a GPS. And while they're driving, IEDs are going off. People are shooting RPGs at them. And they're going like this and like that. And by the time they got back, she bled out and died. 18 years old. Didn't even have a quarter of her life. You know what I mean?
The babies, they're kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, these are kids. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, I will always have the American soldiers back, 1,000%. No questions asked. It's like, why are we in war in the first place?
Right.
You know, and
For
then
the rich to get richer.
and who are the rich?
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
And that's just an open-ended question. I don't know the answer.
Childs, you know.
But I threw my tinfoil hat on it, but, you know, probably around 2020 where it just didn't add up.
Yeah.
And then started looking at a lot of different things and questioning stuff and been buddies with you for a long time. And when you stop watching sports, it's I got nothing but time to look up stuff.
Right.
Your dad knows.
Yeah.
Right.
Steve and I were at a basketball game the other night, and there's a stage, and he hops up on it, and he goes to pee. he lifts the curtain up, he goes to peek. And I'm like, hey, Bud, be careful. Once you look behind the curtain, you'll never unsee it. Say that to him. And he don't get it, you know what I mean? But like, that's the truth,
It
right?
is.
Once I seen, and Chalie and I were talking about some things I saw over in Afghanistan. Once you start seeing things, and Michael's story was one of the first things that I was like, we just killed Bin Laden, and this happens a couple days later. Like,
Right.
this ain't adding up. You know what I mean? I was in the service at the time, and that was one of the first things where I was like, okay, I'm gonna remember this because I don't think that this is on the up and up. You
2
know what
and
I
2
mean?
doesn't equal
No,
5.
I don't
no
believe
matter
coincidences,
what
that's for sure.
and that's what they would try to do to us. You know, they would try to ram down our throats. 2 and 2 equals 5. And we're like, no, it doesn't, you know, and then the BS stories that they gave us, we're not military, but we have common sense, you know, and we're like, it just doesn't make any sense. So when we started questioning them is when the following and the threatening and you know, coming in our house and trying to intimidate us. And you know, the one night, remember early on they came into our house, it was like 10 o'clock at night. There were 10 or 8, you know, 3 and 4 star generals that came. And then they say to me, you gotta leave the room. And he says, she ain't going nowhere. No, she don't have to leave this room.
You're coming to your house telling you where.
Exactly. Fuck
Imagine
you.
the fucking audacity.
You
of that.
gotta
Like,
give
fuck
me-
off.
Fuck you, right? I don't care how
That's
many
when
stars.
you go out and invite all the neighbors in the house.
That's right.
Everybody get it.
And I would have if it
Yeah.
wasn't late. And trust me, I have no
Fuck
problem doing that. But you
And
know,
that's the shit they've been getting away with for years. That the fact that you even ask them questions, they look at you like,
Right.
Who are you?
Right.
Peon? You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like, yeah, okay, that ain't how this is gonna go. You
and
know what
I
mean?
said to the one general or admiral, I said, I don't care how many stripes or stars you got on you. I don't answer to you.
Yeah,
You're nothing to me.
yeah, you didn't sign that contract.
No.
Let me
No,
tell you
I
something.
did not.
Michael dies 93 days after the Bin Laden raid.
Mhm.
Admiral McCraven leaves 2 days later. That a boy McCraven?
Piece of shit.
McCraven left after Bin Laden or after.
Michael got killed.
Michael.
2 days.
Michael and the guys, yeah.
All of a sudden, ghost.
Yeah.
Retires. Now you know he's too pompous to go out without a parade, and you know, I think Texas A&M gave him $750,000 a year to tell you make your bed if you want to feel like you did something. But and then David Petraeus, General David, he leaves 4 days after. You know, the guy that was lifting up his shirt for his girlfriend, the reporter. What else was on his computer?
Right.
Right? You know, and one thing, that month, August 2000, after Michael and all them died, 10 3 and 4 star admirals and generals left without nothing. Boom, just ghost. And if you notice anything, you know, you're talking about them guys, not all of them, but you see my son's medals up there, they're different than the medals them generals and admirals have. There's a difference because they were actually boots on the ground. The admirals and generals are in Washington, D.C., Vegas, Virginia, whatever. You know what I mean? They don't have the same type of medals, you know. So, not all of them. But I'll show you, Sean, and your audience there. You know, they said the RPG hit the helicopter. It was 100 yards in the pitch dark. It was a lucky shot.
Beyond recognition.
38 by skulls, 38 C-spines, no identifiable remains. It was in all the newspapers, the news. Michael was alive for 10 minutes or so, and not, he was like this, Sean, with a gun in his hand. And you could see him just like you see the hair on his hands and all that. Dover gave us the autopsy and pictures. And then, of course, the government, when I said, you know, my son didn't need to be cremated. They said, well, how do you know that? I said, I'm looking at him, you know what I mean? And
That was Admiral Pye.
But here's
hung
that.
up on Chalie after he said, well, where'd you get that?
And that was from the 1,300 pages you were able to decrypt, right?
Yes.
here's the helicopter.
You could see, that gritty stuff on the bottom of the helicopter, so when you walk, it's not, you don't slide. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could actually, in the pictures, see that gritty tape. That's how, and they said that the explosions and the helicopter were burned. No, that's bullshit. The trees around the helicopter weren't even burned in the pictures.
Oh, here you go. What Mayor's talking about.
Yeah. There's no burn, there's no singeing on the trees. And I'm doing some.
You can see them with the sawzalls. But why, it's bad enough your son dies and to be lied to and covered up, and nobody held accountable, I think, Sean, our documentary that's coming out, Steve, Extortion17.com, your audience can look that up. You can order a preview. It's going to really open a lot of eyes. What we were talking about the contractors, about the everything going on in America, 30 years in war. To hear the Taliban, we filmed in Afghanistan. To hear these people over there and their mind thought, and it's really, it exposes a lot. It exposes a lot, Here's something that really threw me off, Sean.
Let me touch on that, and that the Taliban is still being paid by America. Like, there's.
I mean, the way we left that, right? I mean, that was
a complete debacle.
That was
horrible
for men who shed blood over there, right?
Yeah.
And women, and I know just in my community, right, other guys, that hurt everybody. You know what I mean? And I can only imagine the loss of life and the parents, and again the ripple effect of it all. And then. Yeah, I'll leave it there. But yeah, it's just it's just amazing that we leave it like that, and now then we find out we're paying all this money still to them, right? That's insane.
For what? For what? So that they can, for what? There's no.
You see the videos of the parade and they're flying helicopters around, right, and everything else. And I remember like when I was getting out of the army, and you gotta go through like our CIF, I think it was called, and you gotta go hand in your gear. And now there's this woman giving me a hard time about a $20, I don't even know what it was, but maybe a poncho line or something that I didn't have and was turning it in. And they're gonna give me a hard time about this, wanting to charge me about it. I had to buy my own medals when I got back.
Are
right?
you kidding
My own
me?
CIB, I had to buy my own CIB, right? They have them, so they couldn't give them to us. So we had to go out and buy our own medals, right? Meanwhile, they were leaving billions of dollars in equipment and helicopters that would bust my balls about a poncho liner,
Oh, that's insane.
And that's every day for these guys, It's fucking crazy.
I think one of the biggest out of the 1,300 pages that really grabbed me is Exhibit 89. And it says, next reporting that I have fits within the time frame. It comes from May 11th, 2011, when we killed bin Laden. And it's late May. There's no date on it, but it's out of the task force. And it says something to the effect that 100 Taliban plan to travel from the blank Providence through the Tangine Valley, where they all died, to possibly shoot down the coalition force aircraft.
They know.
I mean,
They knew.
In
May.
They knew 100 Taliban in the Tangine Valley.
Because that night, you said no electricity, right? And then that night, there was no fires lit, right? Somebody was drying crops on the roof at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Like all this stuff I know because I've listened to different podcasts, The Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Yeah.
I listened to, just talking to your child, and I read the book Relentless, which is also available on Amazon,
Yes.
right? And again, it's just like I love how like passionate we are as like Philly people of like we you know green for the Eagles and everything like this. Well, like go do research on this. This is a Philly kid.
Yeah.
This is one of our own. This like even the guys for the Eagles. How many of them play for? How many of them grew up in Philly?
Right.
None.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you got this loyalty. Well, go check out what this
Yeah.
kid and his family, or like what this kid went through and his family's going through. Like, why don't you look at that? I mean, that's who Philly is. Michael Strange was Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You know, like go be loyal to that.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's what I said. Like it's funny when you like when I stepped away from sports during this time, and it was really because of everything going on with the kneeling and all that stuff with the flag. It's like I thought of you. I thought of your family. And I thought about like, you know, what gets flown home at that time. And I'm like, again, I think it's actually by design what they do. They get people so emotionally charged up that you're not willing to have conversations with your neighbor, you know, and it just becomes a screaming match about whatever. And again, during the time to take the knee, you know, was intentional. Was intentional to, again, emotionally manipulate people to make sure we hate each other.
Exactly.
And not listen.
Exactly.
They have people in Washington, D.C. in think tanks that exactly what you're talking about. It's called a psyops. You know, like one of the biggest psyops was after Michael and them all died. It was just Dev Group. I think the 22 guys from Dev Group.
We will make America great again.
There you go.
We will make America
President
great
Trump.
again.
That's my buddy. And
That's the Strange family's clock.
Yes, it is.
Every hour on the hour.
that was President Trump calling. See, checking on the crew here. But you know, we walked into the convention center in Virginia Beach. Packed. Thousands of people. And they had us go in, meet first family. Then they waited about 3 minutes. And you go in, there's 2 big movie screens. And there's pictures of our sons with their families, with their kids. Michael fishing with me and his brother and sisters. Or Michael running through Wissahickon Park. And then there's like, you know, and the other guy with his wife.
Did you give them these?
No. We didn't give them nothing. So you're walking in, there's thousands of people there. Everybody's looking at these 2 big movie screens. And you're like, oh, wow. And you're standing there. And then all of a sudden, lights go out. Boom, 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 boom. Machine guns, bombs, RPGs. One lady was pregnant. She went right down. And then they go back to the freaking beach. The guy walking on the beach with his wife. That's the mentally get your brain like, you know, you're just twisted. It was probably 2 months after it happened.
Good idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, they know what they're
Well,
doing.
they know what
Yeah.
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 They know what they're doing.
Psychological
Yeah.
warfare to keep you.
Here's the other thing they did. So, 18 now, I think it is, buried in Arlington out of the 30. And almost 11 months to the day that we bury him, I hated going to Arlington. I would say, man, my son's in a box. Fuck that. I was out of my tree, you know. And almost 11 months to the day, they call you back up. And they say, we need you to come back to Arlington to bury the rest of the remains
That they couldn't.
that they couldn't
match up.
decipher. So then you go back to Arlington, and the horses, and the guns, and the salute. So they keep your brain going like, don't ask no questions. And you're not, because you're like out of your, tree, you know what I mean? And,
All right, again, you're gonna make me go through this a second time. What are you thinking?
yeah.
They knew exactly.
Oh
what they
yeah,
were
that's what I
doing.
mean.
Yeah.
You can only play innocent or stupid so many times, right?
Right.
And then it's like, yeah, okay, what's this really about?
Well, even with the memorials, it was like, look what we're doing for you. Don't look at what's really
It's the old
happening.
magician trick, you know what I mean?
Right,
Absolutely. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Sleight of the hand, and
Even in Dover.
yeah. Oh God.
In Dover, on the body, 38 caskets, right? You want to, oh my God, you want to talk about pain. Like, you just like, boom, people dropping, knees buckling, and then they had the 8 Afghans with their flag on their coffins. And I remember my daughter Caitlin saying, "Who's that?" I said, "I think that's the Afghans." She said, "What the fuck are they doing here?" Right? Because they're supposed to have that Muslim burial, right?
Yeah.
And then while you're in Dover, them telling you they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
You don't know who their names weren't on the manifest. The 8.
Something got switched out on the manifest with the people that were supposed to be on the helicopter that night, right?
Yeah.
They got switched out with other people, or
They got
Can you
on the
explain that?
helicopter, and then at the last minute, they got off, and there was one 8 Afghan interpreter. He was the 8th. But the 7 Afghan National Army got off, and 7 others got on, and their names didn't match the manifest. The only reason that we found that out was them 1,364 pages, because the one guy said, "Well, sir, I'm sure you're aware that there were 7 Afghans and their names don't match the manifest."
They told us that in Dover.
That's against the law,
Yeah.
but the law doesn't matter.
And then while I'm in Dover, we're in the hangar, Barack Hussein Obama comes up to me and he sidesteps me and he grabbed me by the shoulders. He said, "Michael changed the way America lived. Michael was the greatest." I grabbed Obama. I said, "I don't need to know about my son. I need to know what the freak happened here," because he was talking about a will. And I shook him like this.
Like a bobblehead.
And then the Secret Service guys grabbed me and they take me outside.
They didn't
Give me
grab
a
him
water.
right away, though. I think they wanted Charlie to just throw a little fill.
So I'm outside with the Secret Service guys, and he gave me a water. I smoked cigarettes then, and I come back in, and Leon Panetta, right, Secretary of Defense, right, he comes up and says, "Mr. Strange, I'm going to ask the same questions as you." I'm like, "You're the Secretary of Defense. I'm a construction worker from Philly." And then a couple of the other dads started chiming in. And they said, "Mr. Strange, Secret Service guys, come on outside, calm down." I said, "Calm down? You telling me my son's dead?" You know what I mean? Like, there's something wrong here, man. And, you know, it's life-changing, you know what I mean? It's to be lied to by your own government. You know, these kids join this military to defend our country from Boston bombing, 9/11, San Bernardino, all these attacks. If you Google a lot. You see how many times we've been attacked in America that they don't talk about? Over 300 times. And I'm not just talking about the mall bomb from, you know, Din Muhammad or the sea, you know what I mean? And I know personally Michael and his crew did things in America where they stopped stuff where they were going to do harm. You talk about, you know, your neighbors and next door a hero, people that grew up in Philadelphia, you know, and then you talk about humbleness, they don't talk about it, you know. But what they stopped in Boston, Texas, all of a sudden, you know, Michael's from there, boom, boom, and then next thing you see on the news, terrorist attack stopped by da-da-da. They don't say who it was, but, you know, we know, you know. And then to get treated by the people in Washington, D.C., the Gold Star families, the way they got treated, you know. Look at the 13 right in Bagram. President Trump asked us to go over to Temple when he was there, meet some of them parents. The kids were shot in the back. It wasn't just an IED. It wasn't just a bomb, the guy with the vest bomb. They were behind the gate. You know what I mean? And this, the biggest loss of life in the Middle East war, 30 guys, the biggest loss of life in the history of America. 22 guys from Navy Special Warfare. And to be get treated like this, you know?
So it's not even, you're not even able to really mourn your son properly. First of all, the way it happened wasn't normal at all. And then you have, you know, your own government, like, you know, interrogating and attacking you with psychological warfare.
It even got to the point where when we would go to the memorials, they had big buses for the parents. But Mr. and Mrs. Strange, you come on with us. And it was a blacked out Suburban. I mean, blacked tires, windows were black, and Charlie had 2 guys on him, I had 2 guys on me, and they would follow us everywhere we went. Like, you know, in the memorial, I'd go to the ladies' room, I'm like, do you just have to go to the bathroom? I mean, you know, like, what, I can't go to the bathroom by myself, and it was just multiple times they would separate us. They were trying to divide and conquer because we were the loudmouths, and then the other parents would join in. But if they, I guess they thought if they, you know, would quiet us, that it would just all go away.
Yeah, because what happens is then you become boisterous and then it spreads.
Right.
Like, you know what, I had the same question, but I felt kind of stupid asking it, or uncomfortable asking it, or I didn't want to cause waves or upset anybody else, maybe the other families. But then that's the power of speaking out.
Right.
When I asked them what happened to the black box, which is really orange, at the debriefing down in Dam Neck in Virginia, General Colt went, a flash flood came and washed it away. And then they come out with, there is no black box. But in our documentary, Extortion17.com, Firestone, who redoes the Chinooks in North Carolina, Bingham, Brigham, what's the base down there in North Carolina?
Right.
Fort
They
Bragg.
changed it now, I think, for Camp Freedom or something.
Yeah, Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
And the other one, Firestone, in 2009, put recording devices in the Chinook helicopter. It's in our documentary. And the paperwork, exactly date, time, where it is. All right, so you don't want to call it a black box, but it's the recording device. We know from the 1,300 pages that there's a recording device, because from the 3-minute call to the 1-minute call, there's a 13-minute lapse. And the guys in the 1,300 pages go, yo, we haven't heard from Extortion 17. What happened?
What was going on?
But 93 days prior, when they killed Bin Laden, everybody was watching Extortion 7, some of them men that were in there. You know what I'm saying? 3 eyes in the sky, right? The sensors, the eyes in the sky. You know what they told us, Sean? They all had a glitch in them.
At that moment,
That they died.
Extortion 17.
They all went out.
Convenient.
Yeah, how convenient.
And then there's also a girl that you always talk about, Joni Marquez, too.
Yeah.
Yes, Joni. Joni's in our documentary. She spent a week up there with Francois Garcia, the filmmaker. That poor girl, we've talked to her. She was in the C-130 above the fighter, the gunship, and she's seen all the Taliban. Man. And she asked to open up fire and got denied 6 times because of the rules of engagement. 6 times.
But before that, she was telling them, do not send Extortion 17. It's too hot. Don't send Extortion 17. And they sent them out anyway. And she asked 6 times to open fire. Denied. It got to the point where she was asking, and they just wouldn't even answer at that point.
And the
Like, just
Rangers.
ignoring her.
How about the Rangers?
The Rangers.
The Rangers, so how they got them all in the helicopter was the Rangers are in trouble. That's what they said on all the news, all over the world. It was on, you know, that it was an emergency, quick reaction force.
Yeah.
Because the Rangers came out and said, we weren't in any trouble. We had 8 of the Taliban caught.
We were ready for X.
So the next day, all over the news, because one of the Rangers spoke up with his face covered up, and said they were after Quarry Tahir. Quarry Tahir, they said, was a high-value target. Quarry Tahir ain't nothing but a punk, low-level fighter. He wasn't nobody, Quarry Tahir. You know? So why get them all in there? So here's the whole scoop on everything. The bottom line was the Gold Squadron was fighting with the CIA about the rules of engagement, and it was getting nasty. Osama bin Laden gets killed May 2nd. May 9th, Karzai, the president of Afghanistan, his brother was killed by the CIA. and there was a big conflict going on with that. So was Michael and them served up hand for the killing of them two? Well, now we got to kill some of yours. You know the beliefs over there. It was definitely done by design. You mentioned earlier about the Tangine Valley, they don't have electric, they don't have, no cultural lighting. They have fire pits over there. Not one person in Tangine Valley had a fire pit that night. So that means everybody in the Tangine Valley knew. They were on top of the roof, Sean, you were talking about earlier. The pilot seen them. He called up, and they actually told us that the Afghan National Army called back and said they were hanging crops at 3 o'clock in the morning. Are you kidding me? And they were under the trees. They had night vision goggles, they had RPGs, they had machine guns, they had motorcycles, they got cell phones, they got everything. Who supplies them with all that? Iran. And I hate to say, Saudi Arabia. Who's supposed to be an ally. How the hell, we just said Saudi Arabia, we just sold them, what was it, $600 million worth of weapons. What are we doing selling weapons to them? So
All the terrorists from 9/11 came.
what's going on in Afghanistan? Steve touched on it. He didn't think I knew. China's in Afghanistan. There's no oil in Afghanistan, but what do you want to say? He don't want to get in trouble. Lithium's in Afghanistan. They've been there. China. So there's so much dirty shit going on. And for our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters, husbands and wives to join, to keep us safe here, God bless them, But to be used as a pawn to fill the pockets of some of these these are sick people, Sean. They have no heart, no soul. There
was a great interview on Candace Owens with the guy, Kevin Shipp, who's a CIA whistleblower. And that's what he talks about, like the CIA. He's like, FBI, you hear all this like corruption, right? And that's what, like, I'm tracking on it, whatever. And like, it doesn't mean everybody in the CIA, the FBI is evil and corrupt. It's like, he's like, it's like that top tier, that top 10, 20%, or they're sociopaths and psychopaths that like really, again, they don't mind sacrificing our mothers and fathers, our sons and our daughters for the sake of whatever gain power they're going to go after.
Right.
Right, and it's just like, again, the stuff that I start tracking on within the last 5 years makes a lot more sense to me than anything else I've ever been told.
And SEAL Team 6 was the tip of the spear. They got paid well for that. It was tit for tat. We'll give you Bin Laden, give us that team.
Sure what it seems like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was some of that, and I think it was when Michael grabbed me and he said, Dad, you wouldn't believe what's going on in this country. Like, them guys knew. I mean, Lou Langley, that died with Michael, he was SEAL Team 6 for 15 years. Jonas, he was the team leader, you know what I mean? These guys are 12 years SEAL Team 6, you know what I mean? These were the best of the best, God bless them, and to hear from the community and different men inside the community about everything that was going on between them and the CIA,
and then, again, I want to, allow you to dictate whatever this is going on, but at the end of the day, too, like, it's funny, like, the main title of this is, if it helps just one, right? Hopefully this conversation is helping anybody. Maybe it's a Gold Star family that never reached out before, or just hearing something for the first time, or somebody that's going to maybe look into whatever we're talking about. And with that, I also want to touch on, like, during this time, child, like, as tragic as all this is, right, man, like, you remain sober through something like this, right? This tragedy that struck, because I remember meeting you in August 2012, and like, you broke down into my arms. A kid from the neighborhood who you didn't know, and like, I never forgot that moment, to where I'm like, and this dude, like, the problems I think I have, like, disappeared that day. I'm like, nothing. You know what I mean? Because, like, it doesn't, surmount the really, like, what could be going on.
Right.
You know, and even to touch on that, as far as like when did you become part of Chalie's life?
2007, and you know, it was. We would make meetings, and you know, my brother was killed in 2009, so we went out to Washington State, and you know, I fell in such a funk. I wouldn't get out of bed. I was so depressed, and he literally picked me up out of bed and stood in the shower and just washed me down. And you know, I never, like, that had such an impact on me, you know. And then I was on my way to work on the Saturday, August 6, 2011, and I got a call. I had seen it on the news about a plane going down in Afghanistan and 30 were killed, 30 Americans. And I'm just like, oh, God bless their souls, you know, and their families. Michael used to say that he worked behind the desk. Don't worry about me, I'm behind the desk. So never in our wildest dreams, you know. And I'm driving to work, and I'm going from Academy to Woodhaven. I'm in the far right lane, and his sister Maggie calls. Mayor, where you at? I said, I'm on my way to work. How you doing, Maggie? She goes, where's my brother? I said, he's home in bed. He's sleeping in. She's like, you need to get home. So I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. And I didn't think about what I seen this morning, because I didn't think that Michael, you know, I thought he was behind a desk. And she said, you need to get home. It's about Michael and it's bad. So from the far right lane, I just crossed over, went down the embankment, and jumped up to go southbound. And when I pulled up, I heard this noise, and I didn't know what it was. And I left my car running. I walked into our apartment, and Drew was living with us, my oldest son, and he's on the floor holding Chalie, like, and looking up at me like, you know, what do I do? And I don't, that sound will never leave my head. And you know, so from then on, I just stayed with him. You know, he wouldn't leave me out of his sight. He you know, and we tried to get, you know, he would try to go back to work. He was working at Sugar House, dealing blackjack and mini baccarat, and he would just break down and start crying. So, you know, and they understood. They sent him home. And like I said to you, you know, I left for work the one morning, and he was sitting on the couch, and I came home at lunch, and he was still sitting in the same position, staring at the same wall. And I thought, you know, I can't leave, you know. And I went in, I talked to my boss. I said, I'm taking a leave of absence, probably permanently. And you know, he had left Sugar House, and he did try to go back to work, though. He's dealing blackjack, and he just breaks down, and the one guy's going, yo, man, what's wrong with the dealer here, you know? And this is bad karma, you know, our dealer's crying.
I would have started tipping them.
Right. But they were great to him. They really were. They on his you know, the time that he worked, they sent buses with his coworkers, and Sugar House sent it down to, you know, the cathedral where the funeral was. And you know, since then we've been to Washington 35 times trying to get answers. And
we did have out of the 60 parents, we had 48 parents write questions in.
Yeah.
That wanted, and some of them said it's too hard. The ones that didn't, some said it's like Vietnam. You'll never find out
What do you mean? What do you mean by the right questions and for what?
about
There
what
was-
happened.
Right. But it
No,
was,
but I mean, where does that go from? The right question is that in the documentary, or is this going
Well,
to a next step? Is this something that's ongoing?
this is Jason Chaffetz's version of a congressional hearing,
Gotcha. Okay.
but it was called Honoring the Heroes of Extortion 17. And there was no congressional hearing. It was a horse and pony show. And they read 4 letters.
so we're going to D.C. and bunch of us, and we got the 13 and the info, and we're dealing with Jason Chaffetz, Utah congressman, and who happened to retire on a Tuesday, all of a sudden quit being a congressman, and Joni Marquez came out on Thursday.
Right.
But anyway, he was going to try to get us a congressional hearing.
Another coincidence. I'm sure.
Yeah. 2 weeks before the hearing, they said all the parents can ask questions except for you, Mr. Strange. And then the police at the Rayburn building in Washington, D.C., that's where the congressman, the security came, and me and he had like a WWF middle linebacker there. It's like, don't start throwing chairs, Mr. Strange, and please, it ain't my fault, you know what I mean? And everybody can ask questions except for you. And then a week later, he said, none of the parents can ask questions. Congress will read the questions that the 48 parents wrote in to a board. So what the government did, they sent this guy named Gary Reed, who is Chuck Hagel's right-hand man, and 4 people that didn't know anything about Extortion 17. About
From the mortuary.
from the mortuary, because
Weren't
Michael
even
was
there.
cremated and he didn't need to be cremated. And I mean, I look back now, I know why they did that. Why would you send somebody that did know something? They might say something.
Right.
And the only one of the congressmen out of all of them, it was on C-SPAN 3, was Micah from Florida. He ripped them up. He read the questions from the parents, and Gary Reed didn't have no answers. So
Dude, the big question was the elephant in the room. Who were the 7 Afghans that got on board whose names didn't match the manifest? Well, Gary Reed said, what was the first thing? That there were 2 sets of 7 Afghans on the base, and 7 were already with the Rangers, so it couldn't have happened. And which was bullshit. And lying under oath, of course and Chuck Hagel had turned Muslim. So, and more power to you, whatever your choice is, but it was just kind of weird. And then when we went to the Pentagon, we were invited to the Pentagon.
Congressman Bob Brady actually helped us with that. So they said we can come to the Pentagon, just me and my wife. We weren't allowed to bring no lawyers, no other gold stars. So we bring the 1,300 pages. Some of them, like our notes in this. And we go in front of Gary Reed and 2 3-star generals in the Pentagon. They walk us in, they meet us in the parking lot with machine guns showing, right?
First we got lost.
and then they take us, boom, in this private room, 2 guys with machine guns in the room, and they sit down, the 3 of them, and I said, asking them about Exhibit 89 on the Taliban. Going, Mr. Strange, he starts talking over me, this guy, Gary Reed. I said, no, it's in, I don't show him the 1,300 pages. I said, it's in the paperwork. No, you can't believe everything you read off the internet. It's not true. Da 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 da. I said, no, it's in the paperwork. And I pull out some of the pages from our thing, and I showed them, and they're all looking like this. They go, where'd you get this? I said, it's the report about the 30 men dying. He goes, we read the 25-page report.
which was Colt's summary report of the 1,300 pages, which they did the investigation in 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, these motherfuckers don't want to summarize anything, right? They pass a bill through, they put 1,900 pages in it, right, just to fuck things up. But now they want to go get the 25-page one, right?
Right.
Like, oh, we'll make it easy on ourselves. Get
Right.
the fuck out of here.
Right.
So when he said to me, Sean, he said, I didn't read the 1,300 pages. I went like this to try to grab him by the throat. And the guy with the machine gun grabbed me. And then the other guy grabbed me. They said, Mr. Strange, no. And they took me outside the Pentagon. So I'm out there, another bottle of water, another cigarette. I come back in. She's over the table calling them an map for you lying son of a bitch. And they're like, calm down. You couldn't read 1,300 pages with 30 guys dying? I know you got a tea time. This might be a little more important. It wasn't your son or daughter. Where's your son and daughter? You know what I mean? Like, you talk about no heart, no soul. So then we leave the questions from the other parents and us with them. About a month goes by. I'm like, I don't know. I called up Congressman Bob Brady. I said, we left the questions. We never got no answer. He said, well, call this number. It's to the Pentagon. Da-da-da-da-da. Don't give it out. I said, all right. I call up. They said, we lost the questions.
Every one of the ones that were in the room
We lost the questions.
Now what they did was throw them in the trash.
They didn't look at the questions.
My husband had to grab me from my legs because I was across the table in his face telling him what a piece of shit he is.
Yeah.
And he is.
So we've been through, President Trump, October 2024, had us at Oaks Expo Center. We didn't know we were getting called up on stage. They thanked us for helping with his campaign, his people and all that. And they said, do you want to ask a question to the president? And Christine Gnomes, the governor. And I said, yeah, I'll ask the question, right? I'm thinking, And then I'm thinking, what if they do pick me, right? I said, my question, Sean, was going to be, can you de-weaponize the DOJ, right? they need to get their house clean. So the first question, they give the microphone, they ask this lady in the crowd, she asked a question, President Trump asked a question, and then Christine Nome goes, we have a Gold Star parents here, Mary and Charles Strange. And President Trump says, come on up on stage. I'm like, oh my, here we go. And he calls us up on stage, and it had to be God and Michael, because I said, Mr. President, 30 men died, Bob, biggest loss of life. I'm begging you for a congressional hearing. And President Trump said, I can't do it the first day, Mr. Strange, because we got to dig, and I got a lot of papers to sign. But I'll have you in the White House the first week with a team to look in to get some answers. And then I'm going to tell you something, Sean. I don't tell many people, Steve. When he hugged me on stage, I said, you know who it was, Mr. President? I said it was Karzai, somebody from the Obama administration, and the CIA. Yeah. And he hugged me back, and he said, oh, I know, Mr. Strange. Swear to God, he knows.
I believe it. It's gut wrenching. I'm doing my best too, because other podcasts you were on, like, there was a lot of chatter and stuff like that. My wife, before I got here, was like, just shut up and let them speak. I want to hear what they have to say. So I was like, I'll do my best. I get enthusiastic about talking about people, talking with people about a conversation with substance. But I'm like, I just want to listen and give you the opportunity to share and I don't know how painful this is to even rehash again. I could see it in your face, John, but I always tell people though too, it's just these Gold Star families, these Gold Star parents, I'm like, they probably want to talk about their kids.
Absolutely.
Right? They're not going to, you're not going to remind them that their kids aren't there anymore. It's, giving them an opportunity to be able to share the joy and happiness that once was, and like share that pain, right? Like we got that saying, man, like pain shared is pain lessened. Like allow them to live, and like I think the more that you guys realize that you're being heard, you know, I think it hopefully it builds you up. I don't know, but hopefully like it gives you that like extra boost you need, or that power you need to just keep doing what you're doing, because the psychological warfare that happened to these families, it probably deters them from kind of keep showing up and going forward and asking more questions, because it's so heartbreaking.
Sure.
And it's the runaround, right? Like everything to do with the government in general.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like it's the we'll just tire them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? It takes a little bit more than that to tire out.
Yeah, especially anybody from Philly that I know.
You fucked with our family.
Yeah.
It's not gonna stop.
Yeah, no
Excuse
deals.
my language.
They're not gonna hurt anybody's feelings. You can
You know
say that,
what?
yeah.
Enough is enough, and somebody's got to stand up. You know, somebody's got to do something.
Well, I just hope we hold President Trump's feet to the fire for this, and he gets it done, as I hope he will. And I hope, I would love to see you on Sean Ryan's podcast that we were talking about before, because he seems to be a guy that can help elevate some situations like this. And he's a member of the SEALs, so that would be fantastic. You know?
Yeah, so you'll go from 250 views to about 2.5 million.
Yeah.
Sean Ryan versus Sean Dugan.
You'll get there, Sean. You'll get there.
Yes, you
Charlie,
will.
I'll be honest,
Touch on
I enjoy the conversations, man. And I just seek out people who I know I'm going to enjoy talking with. It's funny, like when we first started, like me and my buddy Scott, and I think Steve even did one with us, but we would do stuff and like it wouldn't get recorded. I'm like, well, that was a waste of a conversation. But I'm like, but I still had fun. It was cool. Like, you know,
Right.
and it's the
But
more
it'd
you
be
do
no
it.
different than what we would do if we were together anyway, right? So
Right.
it was just very normal. Once you get past the microphone and the headphones on your ear, it's the same conversations we have.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah. And then like it's not all doom and gloom for you either. You know what I mean, child? I know there's moments. I don't even know if you would say days or holidays, all that kind of stuff. But you know, you're still very much a family man,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now there's the grandkids in the mix and everything else too, right? Like,
Right.
you know, how special is that? I know I always steal my mom's line. My mom always says like, I never thought I would love anybody more than my kids until I had grandkids.
Right.
And then
That's so true.
and then the better line was I was at the playground down in Wildwood with this older dude, and you know, my schedule is 4 days on, 4 days off, so like I might be off Monday through Thursday down the shore and hanging out with this old dude. You know, obviously he's a grandpa and he's taking care of the kids, and he's like, his line was, I should have had grandkids before I had kids. And they all like that.
Yeah.
We're coming up on our 7th grandkid.
Oh, God bless.
Due the end of May.
Yep. Jazz and Sylvia Strange.
Yep, another girl. So that's 5 girls and 2 boys.
That's awesome. And my buddy Kev Payone actually is buddies with your son Chaz,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I know Kevin.
Because he used to talk about how like when Mikey would come home, like that during that time, like he would have conversations and tell you to leave the cell phone in the other room.
Yeah.
You know, during that time where you didn't think anything of it.
Right.
And I was always like fascinated by that kind of stuff. Like, wow, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Did the Phillies win?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's it. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
I had, before we came up today, I was telling Chalie this, I was getting the kids ready for school, and I said to Stevie, I'm like, hey buddy, he's like, will you pick us up today? I said, I don't know what time I'm getting out of here, but I'm going to interview, a friend, and we're going, because you don't know what a podcast is, we're going to interview this guy, Chalie. He's like, I'm telling him about Chalie, and I always call the meetings we go to, meetings to be a better dad. That's what I tell him, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm going to interview him, and I was telling him about your son, and he just looks at me, he's like, Dad, what would you do if I died in a war? He's 7, you know what I mean? He barely understands what war is, but he understands the loss. And I said, I don't know, bud. I'm going to go find that out. You know what I mean? And I think about what you're doing, child, and I think it's amazing. And you get a great wife standing by your side, and you guys just doing your thing. And it's humbling to be in your home and seeing all the pictures and medals of Michael, and it means a lot. And anything we can ever do and help you out, I'd be honored. So
You did. Both of you guys picking the Gold Star parents up from the airport and getting them back on time for their plane. I can't thank you, men, both, so much. And I think you really got a kick seeing all them Gold Stars when we stopped at Joe Santucci's at Knights of Woodhaven. And
It's a
yeah,
very
they got
cool
their
thing
drink
you've done,
on.
man. You've cultivated a really cool thing, and just keeping your feet moving is the most impressive thing. Especially when you feel like that air's got sucked out of your lungs forever, man. And then you see the way you respond, and it's like, I gotta keep my feet moving. I gotta help somebody else, and that's the program, right? And it's just amazing to see somebody apply it and do it, And it's just you're a great man, both of you. So.
Thank you.
Well, we, like I said, them 12 steps and taking them through that process and using it in the grief terms, writing the 4th step about your sons and daughters, letting go, let God with the balloons, or my wife makes biodegradable reefs we throw in the ocean. Ocean City, Maryland, we had a Gold Star dad, and his name's Carl Cleveland Tomlinson from Shreveport, Louisiana. He's like, you come out of my house, you better watch out for the gators, Charlie. Where I live, and he's a veteran. And he was putting up on Facebook, nobody cares, my son died. Memorial Day's like Mattress Day sale. And some suicidal thoughts in there with my buddy, we call him Chalie. And he came to Ocean City, Maryland, and me and my wife go down, like 6 weeks before, check out the hotel, go to a VFW post in the fire department and ask them for for when we throw the wreaths in the ocean. And when we went, we tell them what time on Saturday we're going to go do the wreaths in the ocean or the balloons. They had the fire trucks out with the giant flag, and they put it in the newspaper. And people were out of their houses with the American flag. Lined up. And we went to the water and threw the wreaths in. And they had, not my favorite song, but they had taps there and a bugle player and everything. And Chalie, I still talk to Chalie probably once a week, but I can understand him with that Louisiana slang, you know what I mean?
Need some subtitles.
Occasion. It's occasion.
And he's, and that's God working through us to help others. Saturday, through all the workshops, Saturday night, we always, get the motorcycles and the police and the firemen, go to a VFW, and we have a live band, food, let them get their drink on. I always like to say, the one mother said, I haven't danced in 6 years since my son died. And I said to her, you were a go-go dancer. She said, what'd you say? I said, you were a go-go dancer. She said, why'd you say that? I said, you're from Vegas. She said, shh, don't tell nobody. But we learned to laugh again. How do you deal with it, the loss? You walk with a limp the rest of your life. But sharing your experience, strength, and hope to keep going on for them grandchildren and the other children that are here. You learn, you ask God, you beg God some days for strength, and you keep going, and you think you got it bad, talk to the people that lost the 2 kids. And like Mayor said, we've probably had 8 families that lost 2 children due to war. I mean, this 30 years in the Middle East war. And I'm not exaggerating, 150,000 through the suicide and killed in action. That's not counting the family members, the brothers and sisters, the moms and dad that died because of this. You know what I mean? And so we got to do our part here and reach out and give a hand and a hug. And a kiss, you know what I mean, to other parents and the siblings. And people do care.
The rules of engagement, the ones that were making the rules of engagement, they changed it. Obama changed them 8 times to favor the enemy. And none of the generals or admirals that go along with these rules of engagements never had boots on the ground. So they're sitting there making laws and these rules. The one, what was his name? Greg Buckley's son was in the gym working out, and a T-boy, I'm sure you know, but for those who don't know what a T-boy is, what they do is they go around to families and buy these boys off of the families.
In Afghanistan.
And at one time, our soldiers were not allowed to carry guns on their own base. But the Afghans could. So the one Afghan gave the T-boy an AK-47 and said, go into that gym and shoot as many soldiers as you can. And that's exactly what he did. It's
Greg
exactly
Buckley from
what
New
he
York.
did. Right, Greg Buckley from New York.
They've been through our workshop.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Cut off our hands despite our face, right?
exactly
Yep.
tie hands, or
you're following rules. You're following the Geneva Convention, whatever it is, right? But like your enemy doesn't even have a clue what that is, right? How does that?
right.
how's
They
that
were
work?
tying their hands behind, or one hand behind their back, fighting with one hand.
Yeah, I was
That
over
was
there under Obama era, so.
Oh yeah, so it was horrible. Some of the stories are just so horrific. And like Chalie said, we do bring in, the suicide, and we talked about that because our statement was, for killed in action. But then when all these soldiers were coming home and taking their own lives because of guilt and just what they have seen over there, we thought it's only right. I mean, they didn't go over there thinking, hey, you know what, I'll serve our country, but then I'll come home and kill myself. They didn't do that. So they were, a product of the war too,
Yeah, I lost a couple buddies that way.
Yeah, my nephew Shane, he did that.
I talk about suicide a lot at meetings and stuff like that, and that's what I always share. It's like it's a permanent solution to temporary problems, no matter what you're going through, and the pain doesn't end; it gets passed on to somebody else.
Right.
And it's heart wrenching, and to hear your guys' story, it's like one, I have to wrap myself out. I never gave a Gold Star family a ride. You made the phone call to me, and all I would do is call my people. Yeah, because every date you gave, I was always like working or doing. I'm like, I call the family up. Yeah, no problem. I got it. They love it. They love getting in service. Because the original conspiracy theorist in my life is my dad.
Right.
And I know you got a story.
I love your dad.
Yeah, with Big Dad.
He was right.
Yeah.
He was right from the door.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's the one. He used to talk about this shit about as far as New World Order, all this kind of stuff, and like 96 Women's World Cup, and Japan would come out and they're wearing pink and black, and he'd be down the shore, and he's like, "What the hell? I'm like, what's the matter, dude?" He's like, "Japan's girls team is in pink and black." I'm like, "What do you care? What do you know what I mean?" Like, and he's like, "It's New World Order shit."
Yeah.
He said they get rid of the colors of your flags, they get rid of your flags, they get rid of your history, they get rid of your statues. They want one world government. Oh, I'm like, Dad, I get it, And I always used to tell him, like, I get it, dude. Like, I understand that there's a lot of bullshit, it's all whatever. And then selfishly, until it started affecting my own life in 2020 during the height of COVID, and I talked to you about a car accident that happened and what went down with all that kind of stuff, and the world became hateful, and I'm like, this is not what America is.
No.
It's
not.
And it's all by design, it's on purpose.
It is.
And to give people a free platform where it's not like a 2 or 3 minute segment and talk for like 1-2 hours at a time to let their voices be heard and let their loved ones to be remembered. Like, sign me up. You know what I mean? This flew by, and as gut wrenching and heart wrenching as the conversation was at times, it's like it's enjoyable to be able to sit here and listen to a Gold Star family and the sacrifices that you guys have made, and my heart goes out to you, and I'm very much appreciative of you guys, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having us. I hope you find your peace.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
We just did.
Yeah.
Talking about it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Any closing remarks? All good?
I just say, if you know someone that lost a loved one, a sibling, or, call that person up and don't ask how they are. Ask them to go get a drink or a coffee or a sandwich with them. Do that radio check, and you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what somebody's going through. And as Americans and as, Christians, you know, what did Jesus do when he came down here? Who'd he go and help, right? He didn't go to went right in and started helping people that needed help. And so that's, you know, try to do God's will for all of us. And what would he do if he was right here, right now? And so we just try to put out the olive branch and meet others and help others because it helps us.
And you meet them where they're at too, right? It's special, and that's it. Reminds me of a quote from this book, and it's from a priest about 9/12 and afterwards, not 9/11. It was the day after. He was down there at the aftermath, and that's what I send everybody that ever's going through any kind of very difficult hardship. I just send them. It's a paragraph in the book, and it talks about although people offer you these glib theological responses, they're not trying to be rude or whatever it is. It's just they're mean well. But a lot of times it's you don't have to say anything. You just, what you want to do, especially early on in grief, or accompany them along the journey and allow them to find their own meaning of the grief.
There you go.
And I always thought that's kind of what we're taught in AA, man. Sometimes just show up. Just show up, man, and be there and say nothing, and it's enough.
Right.
And
Right. To be a good listener. Or even just to sit in silence so that they're not alone sitting in the house.
Or as my wife would say, just shut up. Shut up. Shut up and let them talk. I want to hear what they have to say. And I'm glad we had the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very
am I.
much.
Thank
God
you
bless.
guys so much. God bless America.